Hi, everybody, and welcome to the late night edition, Saturday night of Crank Up the Volume, coming to you from Las Vegas. You can see the spear behind me here. She Weekend is happening right now in Las Vegas. There's a lot going on to you guys. I mean, I know Vegas always has something going on, but between She Weekend, the Backstreet Boys, Mary J. Blige, Jeezy, there's a lot of concerts. And so Kelly Clarkson is having a residency here as well. So it's been pretty busy, but She Weekend kicked off on Thursday afternoon-ish evening, and they pretty much dominated everything that was happening on Thursday. So I'm sure you've been following the socials. If you haven't, I would say go back and check out the official She Weekend social media. You can go back and see some of my posts as well. I was very honored to be part of the 5-person social content team that was selected to cover the Thursday activities. And it really was a lot of fun. It also gave us an opportunity to meet with some of the players or just kind of get some behind the scenes look at how everything was coming together, how the players were showing up, how everyone else that was participating in this came together. And I will say that I did not realize how big of a production this was going to be. And that, and I'm just talking about Thursday. Friday, Saturday was so much going on. And I did not participate in those things because I'm old, but there were, gifting stations that were happening. There were special lunches and dinners. The team, I want to say last night, went to the Backstreet Boys concert, or at least got to meet them. So I think they were there and they got to meet them backstage. So there is a lot going on. So what I want to do is talk to you more about, kind of walk you through what happened on Thursday, but then I want to share some insights on some interactions and some things that I observed during the course of this weekend. And one thing I will say is that I am glad that I had this experience ahead of the interview conversation that I'm going to have with Torrent GM Megan Turner on Tuesday. So make sure you're looking out for that as well, because I think that it helped inform some of the questions that I wanted to ask and have a conversation about. And it's been really great to hear things directly from some of the players and their family members about what's been going on and how it's been impacting these players in a good way. But it's a lot. So I'm going to start diving into that right now. So I want to tell you that on Thursday, again, we got to go early and set up. We were invited to the welcome reception. So we got to meet some of the players that came in. And I will say that even though this kind of started out as being able to honor the Team USA Winter Olympics gold team, there were many, many more people here. There were other Olympians from other sports that were here to be part of the celebration. And so that was really cool to be able to meet several other Olympians from different sports, both summer and winter, that was there to represent and be a part of the celebration, and they were brought in. So that was great. So being able to do that, and then also when the welcome happened, meaning when the buses arrived with all of these players and Flavor Flav on the buses to come out to the hotel. Everything happened at Park MGM, and it was amazing to see so many people, so many fans, so many kids, boys and girls, lined up, in horrors. I mean, inside of the lobby to welcome. And I did post video from that as well. I was able to be one of the first people, the closest to seeing them come off the bus and kind of get that first initial reaction. So other, youth girls groups, youth boys groups were there to welcome and cheer on the athletes. So that was a lot of fun. Got to see Kayla Barnes. That was a lot of fun. Catch up with her. Again, her mom is adorable. So we talked about her a little bit. And then everything else started to happen. So we also had a parade that happened on part of the strip. So part of the Las Vegas strip was shut down for this parade that ended up in Toshiba Plaza, which is where T-Mobile Arena is. And there was a stage set up for the music that was happening. The entry was also there for the parade goers to come through. And I would say I didn't realize how many groups were part of this parade. I was like, is this just the players? That's what I thought. But I was able to interview some of the other groups that were there, including Girls on the Run of Las Vegas and a few other teams. Las Vegas Aces come through. It was great, and they just players all over the place and other youth groups that were coming in. And then finally, the Olympians, led by Team USA Women's Olympic Team. Lots of fun, you guys. And keep in mind too, it was like 108 degrees outside. Even though the sun had started to set, it was still a little sticky out there, a little muggy, if you will, on top of that heat. But there were thousands of people. And again, I didn't realize how big it was because I was stationed at Toshiba Plaza where the music and other activities were going and the blue carpet that everyone came in on. So I did not get to see the floats or the cars that were, or the others that were marching that were part of the parade. So a lot of people were along there, and then everyone else was at Toshiba Plaza. One of the things I will say I was surprised by too, though, is as I did some of the early interviews of fans that were at the plaza waiting for the Olympians to arrive, there were people that flew in from Colorado and Georgia. I met one person that lives in Everett on the flight that I was coming out here for. Came out specifically for that. It ran the gamut. So that was really encouraging to see that it wasn't just the locals that were there, but that there were fans from all over the country that drove in, flew in, so that they could be a part of these festivities. Then it wrapped up with some words from Flavor Flav. There was a presentation to all of the U.S. women's team athletes. They received keys to the strip. So that was cool. And then there was performances by local artists, but also kind of wrapped up with Chuck D from Public Enemy. So it was a good time. It was a good message, and people hung out as long as they could in all that heat. But it was great, and I really appreciate the people that were there, the artists that were there, the athletes that were there, the families that were there. It was a lot, but it was a lot in the best way possible. Now, let's talk about my observations. And again, I like to get context, and I think that's what my interview style is like, or my fact finding is like. I want to know more about the people that are making the decisions to maybe better understand some of the decisions that are being made. Doesn't work all the time, but it was nice to just kind of be able to float around after all those activities over the course of the past 2 days. I had some really great interactions and conversations with players, with their family members, with those that are in the sports biz industry. And some of the things that I had been thinking about, and I didn't even necessarily know if I should ask, kind of came up naturally in conversation. So I think one of my main observations, and I want to use this as a level set. It was interesting to watch the player interactions, these teammates, these former teammates, these folks that graduated college together. I had to remind myself that, yes, they are moving into the big leagues and they're doing all this, but they're also young and they're having fun. And I would hate to see their youth be cut down or cut short because of sports business, right? And so, but it was just fun to see them, being well poised and greeting the fans and doing all these other things. But then you see them making their funny TikToks with the funny dances and just peeking. And it's like, yeah, right? They haven't really had an opportunity. I keep going back to second graduation. A lot of them just graduated from college and now went through the draft and doing all these other things. And now for some being super, super popular and they're running around and having to grow up real fast, especially on the business side of things and the commitment side of things. They didn't have that learning curve really. They've just been thrown into it. There's tons more activity happening on Sunday. I know some are going to LA. There's other things. Some were just coming off of the ESPYs the night before. So it was a lot. And some of them even told me they felt overwhelmed. but grateful, at the same time. So I'm like, what sage advice are they asking me to give them? Because they did. And, just to pace themselves, right? And thankfully, some of them do have family members that can travel with them, at least in this early part, to be able to help navigate some of these things. And I'm going to talk about family members more in just a second. But what I do want to talk about too is the PhD, the moms. The moms are amazing. And the moms, almost like the players, are being thrown into something that they were not anticipating before. Some of them are having to become momagers, right? And some of them had conversations with me about trying to figure out, knowing that there have been some agents that have reached out to them and trying to make sure that they pick the right person or the right agency because their daughters are being, reached out to by brands, by other companies to be able to represent their product and their business. And you want to make sure that you're doing the right thing by them. We were talking about the complexity of these contracts and having to learn what they really mean. And does this mean that they need to hire a lawyer? And these are expenses that were not factored in to any of this as a process. And I think it was also a reminder too that all these things cost money. Even if the player themselves are being covered, and they should be, by the respective company, doesn't mean that the family is, doesn't mean that the mom is. And that brings on a whole other series of questions and conversation is, how do you go about doing this? What references do you seek out? How do I make sure that I'm not signing my daughter's life away with some of these contracts? There's a lot to go on there. And I was like, that was something I wanted to ask. But I didn't know how to broach it. And I really didn't know for some what that looked like or if that was even a conversation to be had. And it is. And I think some of the activities and meetings and conversations that the guardian or moms in these players' lives are attending and having conversations about is very significant, but it's not enough. And there isn't anything really in place for the moms or the guardians to kind of know how to ramp up to these types of things. Some are lucky to be able to be associated with professional players who have really good reputations that are giving advice or offering advice if they want it. But that's not going to be true for everybody. The learning curves, again, they're short. There's a lot going on. And we already know, specifically with PWHL, we're talking tight turnarounds from announcing the new teams to the draft to, okay, you're playing in this upcoming season in a couple of months. Got to get to it. There's a lot going on. And so there's I don't want to say concern, but there is definitely a feeling of they have to hurry up and learn what they need to learn in an amount of time that maybe normally they would not have. And as I was talking to a couple of moms, they ended up verifying something that I said in an earlier podcast that has created some discussion. And that was that, again, back to the whole second graduation thing, is that for some of these players this round, when they started their college careers, there was no thought of PWHL or maybe it would even be around long enough to be real because again, there have been leagues by other sports entities that have tried and failed. They have not had unfortunately have not had the longevity. And so a couple of these moms separately and unprovoked, I didn't ask about this, but just kind of offered up saying, I never thought that my daughter would be playing in a professional sport, that they would have an option to play in a professional sport after they graduated, even if they've sent their daughters to boarding schools to be focused on hockey. Their best case scenario, they said to me was, okay, maybe they'll play in some kind of junior league in the town that they end up landing after college. But all of this that's happening right now was just not something that they thought that they could look towards. And now they have a very short learning curve and trying to navigate that. And so, but overall, what I saw was that there's the passion for the parents wanting to make sure that their child is treated well, is treated fairly, and is getting all the benefits that they need. But also being able to know when something might be too much, not saying yes to everything, but it can be tempting to. There's stuff that's going on there. And so I was really appreciative that they shared that information with me. So again, I am just happy that I was able to have some of these interactions and conversations because it will help with some of the conversation that I want to have with GM Megan Turner on Tuesday. So, fans of the Torrent, any PWHL team, look out for our girls, look out for our players, give grace, and yeah, they are excited. They are ready to go. I know that I am looking forward to going. I'm hoping how the schedule, you know, lands when it is announced. I hope to be able to go to the inaugural San Jose game as well as our home game, obviously. And I would love to be able to go to the inaugural Detroit game as well. So I'm looking forward to those things. Some of the express like, oh, we want to see you there. Please come if it's not a conflict. I really want to see that happen. And they are ready. They just want to they want to help build the fan base. They want to make the fans happy. And I saw that. There was going back to the learning curve piece again. There was this sense of, they're walking around the hotels and wherever they're going to go to get something to eat, going to Starbucks and are being constantly stopped and recognized by fans. And I want you to think about that. I mean, in every interaction I saw around there was grace, but you could also imagine how overwhelming that is just to be walking down a hallway with your coffee in your hand. But you need to be ready to greet and say hello to people that are so happy to see you, surprised to see you, shocked that, they're in the same space with you right now. And for a 21, 22-year-old that's not used to this kind of interaction, it's a lot. But again, I saw them handle it with grace. And I'm like, I don't know if I was their age back in my day, if I would have been that composed. I don't think I would have. So kudos to them and kudos to their parents or guardians that are helping them navigate through this. And even some of the parents are experiencing this as well. So all right, everybody. I just wanted to again share some of these thoughts ahead of Tuesday's interview. And I will be doing a more extensive wrap up of She Weekend once it is officially wrapped up with photos and videos and montage of all these other things. All right. So have a good one and see you all next week.